Should we investigate?
Should you shut the fuck up before you get us both killed?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Underrated Podcast. This is a podcast where we discuss the films that we feel are underrated or perhaps underappreciated or even ones that have just slipped under the radar and have passed most people by. This is a show of a collaboration of friends, and together we are the Undercast Company. Today's episode is about the Death of Stalin, a 2017 British-produced satire black comedy written and directed by Armando Iannucci and co-written by David Schneider, Ian Martin, and Peter Fellows. It includes a cast of Steve Buscemi, Rupert Friend, Jason Isaac, Michael Palin, Paul Whitehouse, and Jeffrey Tambor. It's based on a graphic novel, a French graphic novel by, it's The Death of Stalin in French.
Ooh, comic book movie.
Le Mort de Stalin.
Yeah, Le Mort de Stalin. And depicts the power struggle following the death of Joseph Stalin. And we'll discuss how they took liberties on this event, or potential liberties. It got an IMDb score of 7.2 and a Metacritic score of 88. So for this movie is a pretty much under the radar category of a movie. So yeah, initial thoughts, guys. Fred?
And it was interesting. It's not normally my pick of a movie I would watch on my own, but after giving it a look, you know what? It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the rest of you guys think. What's your initial, initial thoughts?
No, I really liked it. This is a movie that I just watched for the first time, but I had been meaning to watch it for a really long time. I remember when it was first advertised. It was one of those movies I was like, oh, that looks really good. I need to go watch that, but it wasn't really playing a lot of places. I just never got around to it, and I think that's what happened with a lot of people. I think it had a pretty limited release in the U.S., but I thought it was just really, really good satire, really relevant for some stuff that is happening in politics today. But yeah, just all the acting is great, particularly Jason Isaacs. Really, really good script. Everything about it, I thought it was great. I love dark comedies, and this was very dark comedy, but I enjoyed it.
And Alan?
Well, I'm not a political guy. I'm not really into like political satire. I immediately knew that it had to be the same dude. Now I'm looking it up. It's the same guy who did The Thick of It and In the Loop. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
I've heard of those. I haven't seen them.
Excruciatingly similar. They're I saw some of The Thick of It. It's a British television show. It's about the British government. It has almost the exact same style.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see it. It has the 12th Doctor, right?
Yeah, the homie Peter Capaldi. Yeah. He steals every scene in the show. I saw like maybe the first season, fucking way back when, and you have to be into like politics and into that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a British satire of the West Wing, kind of, I would think.
Yeah, it's super dry, like Asahi super dry beer kind of thing. Like, it's just, you have to be into that type of humor. But I watched it and I was like, yeah, it's all right. It wasn't like my cup of tea, but it was enjoyable for what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my initial thoughts, I actually ended up really, really liking it. I found it like very... I mean, I'm a big fan of Steve Buscemi, and so seeing him in the Gorbachev role and
Khrushchev,
not Gorbachev, Khrushchev role and
Steve Buscemi, bring down that wall.
And just like seeing like this kind of like it's definitely not historically accurate, but in a way,
a lot of it is actually.
Well,
and
yeah,
they moved some stuff around, like
but
the plane crash happened a couple years earlier, and like the constant recording, like those happened at different points, but like it was pretty historic. I watched a video on it today. pretty much historically accurate.
But seeing these like grandeur kind of caricatures of these politicians, and for me, I of course studied like the Cold War and Russia in in high school, but didn't have that much of that much of a background in the history. I still don't, but it was just like for me a very enjoyable movie, and I'll talk about it later. But I found like the kind of like tonal twist at the end was like very grabbing because of how it was delivered. I'll go back to that when we start getting into it.
I'm very curious. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, I'll point it out. And okay, so this was Sergio's pick, so his thoughts on it.
Yeah, let's hear.
I chose this because one, it is very under the radar. Not a lot of people that I know about this film or even know that it exists. You bring it up and they don't know what it is. And I really enjoy it a lot because it's a political satire, but it's very much concentrated on de-Stalinization and just the ridiculousness of what was going on at the time during the Soviet Union. And so I found that very hilarious, that it's just especially with its use of pacing and acting and caricatures of all these historical figures in power of this giant global power. The way it's portrayed, like a lot of people don't even drop their accents. They're all speaking English, and Stalin has a British accent. And it's just it's not ashamed of what it is, and it's just not taking itself seriously at all. It's treating it all as a big joke, which it is and which it was. And I think that was what was the point. And it does utilize a lot of the pacing, which is what Ariel was talking about. At the end, it just kind of it picks up really fast, and it's just it builds up its tension because how these characters are interacting and how they're constantly trying to one up the other, and they keep doing it over and over again until finally the ending happens, which we'll talk about later.
I agree with the accents thing. I love that. Was probably my favorite part of the movie, just because it's telling you like, hey, this, because the movie's in a way very silly as well. Mm-hmm. Like in the beginning where he's just like, where the two guys they're at the orchestra or whatever, and he's just like, oh, how long was it? 7 minutes or wait, 30 seconds or wait, is it 30 seconds starting now or is it 30 seconds starting later or whatever?
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. I was like, all right. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, it has to be the dude who did In the Loop and The Thick of It, because it's just exactly that kind of style. Mm-hmm. But,
I was gonna, since you guys brought up, I was gonna ask what you guys thought about them not doing Russian accents, just using normal accents, because it's the same thing. I don't know if you guys watched Chernobyl. Chernobyl did that, and I think it did. I liked it a lot in Chernobyl, and I was listening to this podcast with the director or showrunner for Chernobyl, and he was saying that originally they had people doing accents, but like this isn't really working. Just kind of like go with whatever your normal accent is, because you have like Stellan Skarsgård and Jared Harris and a lot of like other European actors, and I think it works really well in both cases. I think because they're all Russians, like if you had or not all Russians, but they're all like from the Soviet Union. Like I was Stalin, he's kind of from I think he was originally from, I can't remember, like he's not from Russia, he's from like Belarus or some shit like that, and he has like kind of a Cockney accent, so that's kind of like Cockneys are kind of like in your Britain scene, it's kind of like the like lower class, like whenever you need somebody to do sound like kind of they're from the lower class, that's what the accent they do, and Stalin was kind of from originally the lower class, so it kind of works for him for that. So I really thought it worked really well that they weren't trying to do these ridiculous kind of like over the top, like the comrade, yes, old, yes, like it was just kind of more naturalistic.
I think it comes down, and the choice of doing that in both here and in Chernobyl is, it comes down to interpretation and what it provides to the actual story. For here, for this movie, it just adds to the whole absurdity of what's happening in all these events, and like the events are already like so outlandish, but like you said, they're grounded in reality, whereas like just adding the absurdity of all these different accents and stuff, it kind of adds to that absurdity, like just like the this is true, but it's still kind of like so outlandish. And then for Chernobyl, I think they didn't need to use the accents because of the source material, and it's so impactful. And I think with Chernobyl, they wanted to connect with their audience, so like having people like talk with accents of their audiences, you know, and of the world, kind of, it adds to that. And like adding to like it that Chernobyl was a world event in a way. I haven't seen Chernobyl yet,
Oh, you gotta
so
watch it.
I know.
I've been wanting to watch it too.
But yeah, I would think that like it's a choice, and I think it was a choice that was made intentionally for this movie, just to add the absurdity.
And you know, I think, like I was saying, it works really well for both those things because you only see inside the Soviet Union, you only see characters in the Soviet Union. Whereas, like, I don't think it would have worked, for example, for the Americans, you know, because it's set mostly in America. There's very few Russians, so they do feel very other when they do their accents. So they have to, you know, to a show like that, they have to do a Russian accent. Whereas something like this, where you're only seeing Soviet Union people in the Soviet Union, you're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's, you know, it's a stylistic choice, and yeah, you know, I think it's, I mean, either way you do it, you know, it's like you guys are saying, since it is set in Russia, let's just say if that's how the way they want to portray them as they speak, because obviously everybody has a different accent depending on, you know, like you said, which actors what, they all have a different way of speaking it. And it's I mean, it's a satire, it's a comedy, so it works for them. It works in their favor to have that kind of jokiness, because the movie itself is dealing with real things, like real physical facts and things like that. So it helps add that little bit of lightheartedness to some of the things that are going on, because they have those, because they just, it's not even like they're trying to be Russian or be anything like that. They're just being themselves. Yeah. So yeah, it lends itself well to the I guess the comedic aspect of it that they're trying to add to it. Because then you kind of tell. Because if not, I mean, if they were to try the real accents and let's say do a really good job, you could almost be like, this is like a period piece of the movie instead of a satirical, you know, thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it does kind of make it more universal. You know, it does feel like, okay, well, this is something that happened in the Soviet Union. Does like it feels like, oh yeah, this is something that could like happen anywhere, and it's still going on today in a lot of places, a lot of crazy dictatorships, and you know, even if it's not to that extreme, there's, you know, still stuff where like there's people who are this crazy and power hungry, you know, all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's get into like the story and a bit more, and basically like what scenes stood out to you, and like overall, like what this is a very comedic movie, of course, and for me, like, it was there's just so many good like satirical or comedic moments. Like one that stands out right now is with Steve Buscemi, and then the man that in the beginning Stalin wanted to be killed. I can't remember his name, but just that whole you
talk about what's his name from Arrested Development?
No, Jeffrey Tambor. No, the one that Stalin wanted to get killed, like he left for at the end of the night that Stalin
yeah, the
died.
one whose wife was supposedly killed.
Yeah, the one whose wife, that whole scene right there. Where Khrushchev is like, here's your wife and stuff like that. He's like, she's dead. She's not dead. And like, she's a whore. She's a traitor.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And then she shows up and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's just the absurdity of that scene, and just like Khrushchev just like it's okay, like, don't stop saying that. She's right behind the door. Yeah.
And because that stuff really did happen during the time of the Soviet Union and during like those totalitarian governments. Just the whole, you know, the gulags and the secret, like the KGB, and the whole thing with the interchangeable lists, Stalin's list being replaced with new lists after his death, and just the fight for power, and those are the kind of things where it's like, oh, these big government things or whatever, politics. But politics aside, it's all one big joke, which is what the movie tries to show and do, using a lot of different methods that they use in the movie.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Jojo Rabbit a little bit in that respect. Like Jojo Rabbit was a lot more, was a lot less dark. I mean, it kind of like they're both like satires about these like horrible regimes and like these terrible people. And Jojo Rabbit, you do kind of like have characters to root for, whereas you don't really have anybody to root for really in this one. But they both kind of.
I think I rooted for Khrushchev. I mean, he was trying to reform and that whole at the end where it's like he was starting to reform, and then they cut to like when they're like listening to the opera, or not opera, but the concert, and then they cut to like they cut the camera to behind him, and it's who's the one that overtook him and did re-Stalinization? Oh my gosh, we're getting this is a history lesson on itself. But like, yeah,
I'm gonna be real. I didn't remember anybody's name. So was that Steve Buscemi's character?
I feel you, fam.
Yeah,
Steve Buscemi took character. Khrushchev took over and was doing de-Stalinization, but then
he was kind of like the lesser of all the evils,
Yeah, honestly, I did root for him the whole time, but only because I'm like, it's Steve Buscemi, so I was like. I liked him and the general.
But I feel
the general, I was going to go into that. Like, I fucking love the general in this movie.
The general was funny. But you know what? I got to say that I feel that the movie was...
Yeah.
Draco Malfoy's dad just shows up and...
Yeah, shows up out of nowhere.
That's who he is.
Yeah, throws off his jacket in a like outlandish way and says, I'm going to take everybody by the nuts.
Yeah, he's got like 18 medal. Like he just like everyone else is like got all this political like stuff, and they're like trying to be all sneaky. And he's just like I don't give a shit. Let's just do a coup. I'm gonna punch this dude in the face. Like he just was like, let's do this. Like he just had no chill, and it was fucking great.
Yeah, there's just so many.
He
now
stole the
thinking
show
about
too for me.
Yeah, now thinking about it, there's so many scenes there where it's just had me busting up laughing. Like the whole, the cars and their cars like. blocking each other in, and they're like, "Oh no, we need to get out to pay our respects." Okay, get back in the car, get back in the car.
Very like British like humor, like they're like when they're like racing to go hug Svetlana, like it's all that kind of like very dry British humor, like about these horrible people, and I was always also just busting up laughing the whole fucking movie.
Yeah, I it's definitely one that I definitely enjoyed, and like. I want to see it again. It's been like a week or so since I watched it, but yeah, I definitely want to see it again. And like I got the sense of like like the Jojo Rabbit kind of like comedy of like if you like Jojo Rabbit, you'll definitely probably end up liking this one.
Yeah, very very satirical.
Yeah, and just putting like a different interpretation of like these. Definitely evil people, or Stalin and
Beria.
Yeah,
that guy sucked. Hot take. These guys suck.
Oh man, how dare you say that?
Wow, that's super controversial. Can we have a warning before this? These hot takes.
Trigger warning.
Yeah. But so what I was touching on before. I want to go back to it is that for me I felt a definite tonal shift in the last like I'd say maybe like 10 minutes and it was super sudden that it was like a shotgun to me, like a shotgun shot of when they started basically their quote unquote trial of the main, like we could
Beria.
call like Beria. It just was like so sudden, and there was no comedy to it. Like that's what which made for me like a lot more impactful and drastic of like their action. Like this is like it happened so suddenly, and I mean like historically I'm pretty sure like that's how it was. Like it was within 10 minutes this man was just dead, gone, burned, and it wasn't until maybe like. Once Khrushchev started like listing his what he was being his crimes and his charges, where I was like, oh, like oh, this is like serious now kind of thing, or like, and for me it was like it was a very smart choice to actually do that and to do it so suddenly, to take the audience off guard, because in a sense, like, this whole movie, everybody is getting caught off guard, there is some planning and stuff like that, but with the politics of Soviet Union, and maybe touching on like politics of today in certain countries, like, it could go that fast. It's like, like it was just like a very like smart writing, and in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that was the ending. The ending really was really good. I definitely like that kind of like fast-paced frenetic, just like, because you knew it was building towards something, but you didn't know. Because I mean, I knew vaguely like what was going to happen. Like, I knew Khrushchev would come to power, but like I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I didn't know the details, what happened with Beria, and like, like Stalin's son, and all these other players, and so. That, yeah, it was definitely ramped up really quickly, like you were saying, that, and provided a very powerful, impactful finale. And then just kind of the cherry on top is like, yeah, Khrushchev eventually took power, but then he got ousted by somebody else, and it just kind of goes around and around and around.
For me, I didn't feel that change. Like, I kind of felt it was coming, because I was like, the whole movie's kind of just, you're expecting this climax is going to happen, because it like with these like political kind of satire things, like it's just a lot of shit's going on. It's kind of like Dr. Strangelove, where just a lot of shit's going on, and like it's a lot of like dry humor, and then you have to throw something there at the end to like, I don't know, like to give it an oomph. I don't know how to explain, but like with like Doctor Strangelove, where they have the whole like, oh, we're gonna fucking drop the bomb, and there's a cowboy riding the atomic bomb and all that. You're kind of like, oh, okay, cool. That's the big thing. But this one, I was like, they have to kill this fool. They have to kill him. Like, he's the antagonist. You can tell from afar. Like, you're like, they're gonna kill him, or something was gonna happen. But I don't know. I like that change for me was more like, we're here, finally. This is the end of the road.
Yeah, like, I knew it was gonna happen, but it was just, for me, it was just like, I guess I wasn't like, I thought it was gonna be like carried out like a bit, and not just like within the span of like 5 minutes. I think I was just so like enthralled in the movie and the story, and like that, it's, for me, it was just like a sudden thing, like I wasn't expecting. But I understand, like, if you were like expecting it and like waiting for it, then yeah, like, oh, okay, we're here, kind of thing.
Yeah, like that's how I felt with it. I was like, oh, okay, we're here, cool. Let's get to it. I'm assuming like, his other stuff is going to be like that as well. Like, it feels like you kind of just jumped into the middle of some shit going down, and then when it ends, you're still in the middle. Like, it was just a day in the life kind of thing happening, and you're kind of like, okay, like life moves on and life happens beforehand kind of thing. I don't know. I was like, you can't. It just felt very like it's in the middle of this grander thing. But I think it's because I knew like, oh, it's something that they're satirizing real life, and with other movies, you go, oh, there's a climax, and boom, you're done. I don't know. For me, I was like, all right, it's gonna happen. Some shit's gonna happen. I'm waiting for him to die, and there you go.
Yeah, I got. I mean, I kind of saw where they were headed to as it started coming up. I mean, I feel kind of like almost at the end, like kind of like a documentary where you kind of already know what to expect, and you kind of know where, because you know how they kind of list off at the end, like, well, then he rises to power, then someone else gets the power, and with the music and the stuff, which wasn't a bad way to end it. I mean, because you do get some of the laughs and you do get some of the stuff in the movie, but it's very factual in the sense of the movie. So watching it felt like I was watching like a documentary with humor, I guess, if I can put it that way. And so once that scene happened, and then I feel like the end with all the stuff is almost like the ramp down for it. Like its big scene was, I mean, they were working its way up. Everything was getting exciting. The army comes in, they get their big plan, then let's kill them. And I mean, everybody had vested interest at that point. You already knew the army didn't want to lose power being the army, because he was kind of bringing in his own like Secret Service kind of special army. I mean, it was good. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sergio, what do you? I mean, you're the one who picked it, so how do you feel?
So I think that you guys all do have a lot of great insights on it, especially everyone's interpretation on how the ending hit them. Me personally, it's kind of like a mixture of both. Like, obviously, it's coming if you know the history, but just the execution of it, a lot of the humor does rely on the pacing of it as well. It's like the pacing and just how it hits you, and how the movie and their punchlines and their jokes and their characters and the dialogues hit you, and sometimes it'll just be like long pauses of silence during a joke, especially with Stalin's son when he does something stupid.
When he spit up and it landed in his face, I was fucking dying.
And it's just the portrayal of it. It's I'm a fan of it because I just like I enjoy the mockery of it and the stupidity of it. And in terms of how that ending hits, I'd say and going back to what Fred was saying about how it does feel kind of like a documentary, I do agree with that. Or a documentary with humor, I do agree with that. And
just like the Ted Bundy documentaries on Netflix, fucking hilarious.
By the same guys too. Steve Buscemi.
I don't think I've seen it.
Dude, Steve Buscemi killed it as Ted Bundy. He's so good. But yeah, he's
so good that he looks like Zac Efron.
Yeah, the Irishman
to the fucking T.
So
Twin brothers.
Not that I want to interrupt, but does he sing in that movie? Because if not, I think it's a missed opportunity.
Steve Buscemi?
No,
Zac
Efron. No, he doesn't sing.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, he sings.
The Greatest Showman. Come on, guys.
He sings "We're all in this together" before he kills somebody.
Fantastic.
He didn't actually sing "We're all in this together," but whatever.
He didn't.
No, he didn't sing in the first movie.
Oh.
Bro, I took a fucking leap. I was like, it sounds like one of those fucking things.
You're right with the movie.
So.
No, you're right with the movie, but for some weird reason, Disney didn't let him sing in the first movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's a whole other thing. Work it.
That's a serial killer of a different color.
But
anyways,
with this movie, it's not the best movie out there, of course, and there's other things that are very similar to it. But the amount of scenes, the amount of great scenes, it's just, and the character interactions, just each of the performances always trying to one up the other, in like the most mellow way possible, I guess, or just like,
well, like how they were like
throughout,
they were
like
they were like mellowy, like trying to like be the best in the characters too.
When Steve Buscemi stands in front of Jeffrey Tambor at the funeral, he's just like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, when he's like, "Let me get on this other side of you."
It's just like,
like it's part of. Oh my god, there's so much like subtle, stupid shit like that.
The whole movie's just riddled with that kind of stuff, which is what I find enjoyable about it, and it's entertaining to watch. I find it.
The hockey team.
And the hockey team.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was remembering all these like scenes and jokes.
Yeah,
and
right. This is what you go through when you watch the movie. The movie's just riddled with this kind of stuff, and that's how it's structured, which is why I find how it is structured very different to traditional things like this. Is because, well, obviously a lot of it's like its own genre now at this point, but that's how this genre is. It's structured and paced by these jokes that just keep coming and coming and coming, and I think that's what makes that ending hit some people that aren't expecting it, because you're just so used to this flow, this constant flow of, and almost like a barrage of just funny scene or joke or just something that's really funny or entertaining to watch, and then all of a sudden it gets cut off and silence. And
It's very British, super British.
yeah.
I will
Yeah,
tell you that.
yeah. I was just reminded of like the Stalin's son is like the son in that episode of the ID Crowd where he busts into his father's
Oh my god, dude, that was
Father!
fucking godlike. Father! Dude, Matt Berry. Oh my god, if Matt Berry was in this movie, I would give it like way more like praise just because Matt Berry's godlike. But anyways,
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's wrap this up. What are our final thoughts, recommendations? For me, I would definitely recommend this movie. It's definitely like it was under the radar. It has really good critical acclaim, but just wasn't approached maybe because it is technically a British movie. And was a limited release, but
Yeah,
the
British
humor,
independent film.
yeah, if you are a fan of British humor, definitely watch this. If you're a fan of Steve Buscemi, of Jason Isaac, you definitely see these actors like be these character actors that, and
Jeffrey
you know,
Tambor.
you learn a little bit about history. And I think with this and with Jojo Rabbit, I think this is like a really good and effective way of telling historical stories in this, even though like they might have some falsehood to them, or with Jojo Rabbit it is technically a fictional story, but there's some truth to it. I think this is a really good way to with these two films, it shows that it's a really good way to kind of digest history.
Oh yeah, if you're familiar with the subject matter, I think that you'll find extra enjoyment from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see Stalin laying on the ground pissing himself, so it's pretty great. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. So definitely recommend for me. Very funny movie. Just remembering scenes will just make you laugh.
Yeah, and I also gotta really recommend it. Especially if, like me, you're a fan of dark humor, you like satire, you like very dry British stuff, which is like that's right up my alley. And also, like, if you like historical stuff, definitely check this movie out. It's a fucking riot. It's it's a little bit of a downer, obviously. Like, you don't really have anybody to root for. There's maybe like one character, Stalin's daughter, who's not a completely horrible person. But yeah, it's a really good watch. Check it out. Anybody who likes this kind of comedy, or likes history.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Not really my cup of tea. I'll be real. It wasn't bad. The humor was good. I mean, I'd say give it a watch and see how you feel. At the end, I thought it was a good movie. It's not a great movie. I'm probably never going to watch it again, but I did enjoy at least watching it once. So I think that's good on the movie.
I'm actually like really on Fred's side as well. It's a solid movie. I wouldn't watch it again. And then I do want to give people a fair warning. It's dry. Like, it's British humor, so like don't expect like, American style where it's laugh out loud, fucking jokes and ha ha ha, ha and all that stuff. Like, this is dry, so like you're gonna walk in and you're kind of gonna be like, oh, okay. But if you watched in the loop and in the thick of it, you're gonna definitely enjoy this because it's eerily similar. I mean, obviously the director wrote and did the show as well. And if you're kind of like, I don't know, give the thick of it an episode. If you don't want to like give a whole 2 hours and just watch it and see, like, if you're into that, then you'll like Death of Stalin. But I will say though too, Peter Capaldi steals the show because he curses like a poet in that show. It's just go on YouTube, look up Peter Capaldi in the thick of it. It's poetry in motion. His cursing, it's amazing.
So is he like the how Jason Isaacs, I felt like, for me at least, stole this movie? Is he the same kind of
like
thing?
he's the general, right?
Yeah.
Better, but he's better than the general. But what I will say this is, like, I don't think it's underrated. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's underrated. I feel like it's just in the middle. Like, it's a movie. That's it.
It's just kind of one that flew under the radar, I think.
Yeah.
It flew under the radar, but like I said, I'm with Fred. Like, I'm never gonna watch it again. I'm just kind of like, hey, I enjoyed it for what it was, and yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
All right, Sergio.
Oh, well, I've already said my opinion on it. I do enjoy it, and I think that, yeah, I could see how I got the reputation that I got, but I still believe that I think more people that haven't seen it couldn't possibly enjoy it, and that's really why I recommended it, is because I feel like there are people, like I just said, I'm just going to repeat myself, there are people out there who enjoy this kind of stuff who might have not seen it, and if they were to see it, then they would like it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So overall, give it a try. I think that's what our consensus is. Yeah. So definitely check out The Death of Stalin.
Yeah. And send us an email and tell us what you guys think. Undercastcompany@gmail.com.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything. Like, get out there. If you want to even like reach out to us, I don't know if you guys have your own little ads and stuff if you want to throw out there. If you want to just be like, hey, what's up? I like this or I like that. Go on our Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff.
Yeah, we're always looking for recommendations. For sure. Go for we would love to hear recommendations as well.
Yeah, I mean, next week is Batman v Superman, but after that, we got to figure it out.
No.
Yeah, so next week is Batman v Superman overrated? Is Batman v Super? I know it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 100%. Do you agree with that?
The Snyder Cut actually has 105%. The theatrical 100, they got another 5 once they released the Snyder Cut.
The ultimate cut, the ultimate cut, 127%. 5 hours. But I know you fuckers are gonna go on RT right now and be like, wait, is he right?
and there you go, the Undercast company not going one podcast without mentioning Batman v Superman.
Good.
Okay.
No, because
that movie was whack.
We brought that up before. Yes, we bring it all the time.
I don't think so.
Go.
I don't
check the tapes. Check the tapes.
This is the first time we've ever brought it up. Look, guys, I get it. It's one of my favorite films, but I don't bring it up all the time.
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
It's like, I don't think I've ever mentioned Lost on this podcast either.
Who is David Fincher?
Alrighty, guys. Let's wrap this up. So, thanks for listening, everybody. Hit that subscribe button on your podcasting app to make sure you are always notified when a new episode of this show comes out. And continue to hear us babble. And please, if you are willing to give us a rating and a review, it really helps and lets us know what else you'd like to hear from us and this podcast, because we can only get better with your help. So, once again, we are the Undercast Company, made up myself, Ariel, and my brother Sergio Ortiz Jr. And Fred Torres and Alan Torres.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up, dude?
And Derek McDuff.
Senior, also the only one.
Senior.
And we also have comic, DC, and convention content on our Nerd Incorporated YouTube page and at Nerd Incorp on social media. Gaming and tech content we have on our District 6 YouTube and at District 6 with no vowels on social media. And we have Marvel discussions on our Marvel podcast, Infinity Stones and Dragon Bones, with me and Derek. We'll probably hopefully touch base on the Marvel universe once it kickstarts closer to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So we'll be back soon with another film, so stay tuned, and thanks for being amazing.
Later, everybody.
Bye.
See you in another life.
Bye.